Welcome to Use Your Words podcast. My name is Paul. It is May, therefore it is Mental Health Month. And for those of you who have listened before, I think I brought it up more than once that mental health is somewhat of a passion project of mine. So let's go ahead and talk about it and what changes are coming up due to that.
Why are you, Josh? Why are you like all shucking over there? Because I just see him like, oh shucks, over on the side. And I'm like, oh, whoopsie doopsie. What do we do over here?
What did we bring up?
What does old man Josh want to say now about technology? What is he scared of?
Continue, Paul.
This enforcer says you're an old man now, so.
Anywho,
You have to catch me up
I
later.
can catch you up with that.
All right.
We'll catch you up later, old
That
man.
has nothing.
I have passed off the title of old man.
Should I start getting touch of gray?
Oh, Josh Brewer, always the one to push it to the next level about his oldness. And the day that he has to start using Touch of Gray will be to me on multiple levels.
I see.
Do you now?
I don't know. Maybe. He's got a dog and a cat now and a wife.
Oh, yeah, because all that's so stressful. Anyways, welcome to another episode of Use Your Words podcast. I'm Paul, joined once again by Mr. Aaron Johnson himself, the man, the myth, the legend,
Oh, yeah.
the one who has his arms crossed and is closed off from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But it is now May 2021. We have been in this pandemic for well over a year and 2 months. We are finally starting to see things starting to normalize. We're starting to see festivals saying, yes, we're still going to be going on this year. I'm waiting for them to still be canceled last week beforehand. So things are still up in the air, but people are starting to see some normalcy coming back. And what we're starting to see now is that mental health, it may be becoming more and more of an issue going forward. Now, why I say that is I was recently in a company meeting for where I work at, and they revealed, hey, guess what? We have partnered now with Talkspace, and we talked about that was one of those texting apps. I was like, oh, yay, I can text anytime and get a response with, yeah, I'm not the most excited about that. If I'm going to go see a therapist. And it was funny because I know there's a decent amount of therapists in Milwaukee area, and they're like, oh, there's such a shortage of therapists. Huh? Come again now? It's like, there's a decent number. So, but regardless, they good on my company for adding Talkspace to the benefits package.
Right.
Even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, it might help people who need just maybe someone to chat with and that's fine. I'm not disparaging the app or the people but it's also, Mental Health Awareness Month in May, but also on the call that with work, they were talking about how they're expecting, and they had a doctor on to talk about this, so it wasn't just like company executives talking about this, they had a doctor, how they're expecting now with people starting to potentially return to work and that they're expecting to see a lot of anxiety and all this or some other mental health conditions, depression that come about because, oh my goodness, we're now going to be returning back to the office where I could get COVID again.
Oh, no.
And again, there's still research being done on the effectiveness of can you get COVID twice? How effective is the vaccine? How effective variants? Blah, 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 blah. All that research is ongoing. So anything that's said now will be out of date within like a week because it seems to change like every day at this. But regardless of the fact, I was glad to see during the middle of the conversation that my company was like, yes, mental health is a thing that's happening. Yes, it's a good thing. I wish it was said it's Mental Health Awareness Month, everyone. Hey, let's be aware of mental health and its impact on our overall health. But the fact is, I'm glad that they saw that it is something to be talked about. And that's something that I'm glad to be seeing in general in society as a whole, is that people are a little more open to talk about mental health now than they were even just a couple years ago. Now, I will admit fully, the church, I think, has been lagging behind on that. There are exceptions to it. I'm not saying every church. So when I say the church, I'm talking about Big C church as in the global church, not the little C church as in local church. I'm talking Big C church, global church has been kind of lagging behind, with certain little C churches being neutral to advocate, neutral at worst, advocates at best, and then you have some churches, again, little C's, that are just, to pray it away. You just pray that sin out of your life and to ask God to give you more faith. And to those people, I can't tell you how hard it is to not want to yell at those people, to not beat them over the head with a baseball bat and say, who do you think you are? And I say that because I'm on the other side of the fence, because I've been on the side that's been affected, who's had someone in my own life tell me, I just need to pray hard, that I need to ask for more faith. And I know how devastating that hurt a lot. And so that's what it's like. I know beating them upside the head with a baseball bat and yelling at them is not going to change their mind at all. So that's why that's not my while that may be my gut emotional response, that is not the logical response that I know needs to happen. But so yeah, mental health. Hey, welcome back to that. We're here again in May for that. And I wish I could say a lot of things have changed since last May with mental health in that regard, the pandemic and that. But actually, it might have gotten worse. So one of the studies I was reading recently was saying that some of the side effects of the vaccine, for the COVID vaccine, actually may be due to anxiety over the vaccine. Because, it's hyped up in the news that there might be side effects, which is true. There might be side effects. And the side effects are going to be different per person, for your age or health, blah, blah. And what they're finding is that the anxiety over potential side effects may be actually leading to actual physical side effects.
Ooh.
So in other words, they're literally thinking themselves sick.
Yeah.
I don't want to get sick. I don't want to be sore. I don't want to be down. I don't want to da. And because they're so anxious over it, it ends up they get some of those things.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So some of the COVID vaccine side effects are not actually side effects of the vaccine. They're just side effects of fear and anxiety. What?
I guess, especially with all this COVID stuff being a thing, I can definitely see how it's just whoosh ramped up.
Yeah.
One with kids, not going to friends as much and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about kids not even wanting to go out in public because they don't want to catch this virus.
Right.
Which it's hard to I guess tell them that they'll probably be okay I'm talking about kids in elementary, 5th grade kids, whatever. That they'll be okay when obviously. Trying to think of you'll see parents will tell you one thing, but then you see something on TV just over and over and over and over again. Parents might be like, you'll be okay. But then when you keep seeing horror story type things on TV, it's like, who do I listen to? As a kid, that's very I feel like that would be very, I don't know, well, I guess to a dramatic point. It's like, do I listen to mom and dad and trust them, or do I trust the TV that's telling me all these other things? But yeah, hearing about little kids, one, not even wanting to go outside because they don't want to get sick and stuff like that. And then just being taken away from that social interaction, though, kids. I can't imagine if I didn't have friends growing up and having that interaction with.
Yeah. And a lot of kids have been in that situation for over a year now.
Yeah.
Where they haven't seen their friends except maybe on Zoom calls. And again, that's better than nothing.
It is.
But you can't play that way. You can't.
No. You'll run around with the screen.
You can't whack each other with sticks that way.
No, yeah, you drop the computer and be like, oh, well, mom, dad, we need a new computer.
Until they have fully VR environments where you can jack your brain into the internet.
Oh my gosh.
And then you have a Sword Art Online situation, and then no one will ever want to be on the internet again. For those of you unaware, it's a Japanese anime. They use a VR machine to essentially connect to the internet and play a full immersive VR. And then the creator of the program essentially put some code in the game where if they disconnect from the game without beating the game, they die in real life. It destroys their brain. So, so that's why I mean a Sword Art Online incident. So
it's a little intense.
It's a little intense. Yeah, that's just a quick overview. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but that's just a quick that.
So even with as far as fear, I've seen. I don't know if you've seen it. There was one video that I had seen where this girl loses her mind in an elevator.
Oh yeah.
You saw that when someone else was going to go in, but this person's just screaming and at one point, just sure she was just crying.
So what the video aired talking about, the girl, she was in the elevator and someone else is coming in. Now here's the thing. The elevator is like a glass or metallic inside, so you could see the reflection of the person recording. And the girl or young woman, I don't know exactly her age. She looked around that 18
Yeah, she was
17,
younger.
18, 19 age range. So let's just say girl, young woman. She's like having a mental breakdown, screaming and yelling of, you're not masked up, you're not properly this, you're not properly that. And you could see in the reflection, the woman recording is masked up. And the person in the video is just, and now people are going, well, maybe the person wasn't masked up when they entered the elevator. And that's a possibility.
Right.
But by the time we see the recording,
She's got the mask on.
it's masked up, the way they're supposed to be in the elevator, blah, 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 blah. And
But then didn't it come between being like the distancing aspect?
yeah, then you weren't socially distanced. But then it's like, well, you could still have later and just be socially. But a lot of people were making fun of the girl, young lady, and like, oh my goodness, how crazy do you have to be like this? But at the same time, I look at it and I go, I feel sorry for her because she's having a mental breakdown over this and people are just kind of laughing at her.
Yeah.
Now, I don't agree with the whole, going that hysterical over, oh my goodness, someone got more than 6 feet closer to me. They're 5 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't agree that you have to go that crazy, but at the same time, the fact that she has been isolated so much and indoctrinated with so much fear to the point where she's like, I need to do this, makes me kind of sad in that regard, because I can't imagine what must be going through her mind, the amount of fear going on where she's just sitting there screaming over another person being in the same vicinity as her.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling we're going to see that more. And I say that because I was in a meeting recently somewhere, and they were talking about lifting some restrictions where they're not going to require people that are going to a certain place to be vaccinated. You could be vaccinated or not if you go to this place, whatever. And people in the chat area, and it was a private chat just for this place, they were freaking out. How dare you let someone who's not safe come into the same building as me? Stuff like that. People go, oh, they're Karens, that whole terminology from the internet, Karen versus Karen. But I don't think they're Karens. I think they're just so scared. They're so anxious over all this is going on. They've fed nothing but fear.
Yeah.
That we have to fear every little cough. We have to fear every little sneeze. We have to fear every little red eye, every little fatigue, that I'm going to die due to COVID. I'm not saying COVID is not I'm not saying COVID is not deadly and that it has not killed people. It has. Let's be honest, okay? We can argue and squabble about, was COVID the real cause of some deaths, or were some deaths, comorbidities that, are other related things other than COVID. We can squabble over that, okay? But let's be real. COVID has killed people. What the number is, okay, we can squabble a little bit, but it has killed them. But to be fed every second of the day, all this anxiety inducing numbers, it's like every time a new person gets COVID, it's like CNN and MSNBC and all that are like, breaking news, new person has COVID. Thank you, we know.
It's gonna
Breaking news, person has died of COVID. Thank you, we know. Breaking, yes, thank you, we know COVID. And it's just on and on and on. It produces this anxiety where they just get so scared over the possibility of getting COVID. And all of a sudden they're like, but you're not going to force everyone to do what I want them to do. Yes. And that's what happens. And I feel bad for those, because they are living in that same anxiety. They are living with that fear, with that crippling anxiety that life is going to go bad all of a sudden. And it's not fun. I get it. And I think our news media is just as much to blame as our mental health system here in the U.S. over why that on. In fact, I would put social media, the news media, as two of the biggest contributors to the decline in mental health over the last year and a half.
I'm just thinking, so there's the fear and anxiety and stuff from COVID and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm. You have the depression for people who are isolated.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, because like there's obviously there's different kinds of, I guess, like mental.
Yeah.
Now, I guess to get into that, because there's like there's actual, like, some people have an actual like imbalance of chemicals in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess so. Like, I'm trying to think of like how it differs from people like that actually have a physical difference versus, then there's the people that are, getting anxious and fearful of, say, the virus or whatever. And being anxious also fearful is not good for the body either.
Yeah, you're right on both regards. So mental mental health is a broad spectrum. Some people, it is a lack of literally mental health. It literally is a chemical imbalance. For me, that's what it is. For my depression, it's a chemical imbalance. It's I don't have enough serotonin in my brain. I am taking a chemical that literally helps my brain keep more serotonin in it than normal. My body would normally get rid of some of my serotonin, and it helps me keep some of that serotonin there to help me keep me naturally in a better mood. Obviously I still have bad days in that, right?
Right.
So for me, chemically imbalanced, that's where I'm at. And you could have chemical imbalance for anxiety and all that stuff too. What the news is doing, so it's literally almost like you could say conditioned in a way. Think of it this way. If you train the same way every day for a month, whether that be in the gym, on drums, let's say you do a certain drum exercise every day for hours on day for a month. You're going to get pretty good at that. That's going to get built into your brain. That's going to get something that you're used to. That's going to get something that you expect, right? You go to the gym for a month, you're lifting weights, you're going to get better and better at it. You're going to get running. Well, you're fed anxiety, things to be fearful of. You're getting more fearful every time you're hearing it every day for months on end.
Yeah.
For
it's
hours
just
at a
building
time.
up.
Now, will that lead to a chemical imbalance in your brain? Maybe. It could. But really what it's doing is it's increasing that stress hormone, your cortisol and all that into your body. Your stress is increasing. What happens when your stress increases? You have physiological changes. You have increased blood pressure. You have increased heart rate. You may have increased weight. You have trouble sleeping. You have memory issues. You have concentration issues. You're irritable. So the stress is a big change, and it changes not just mentally, but it changes me physically too. And when you're fed nothing but stress every day, this is what you need to be fearful of. This is what you need to be fearful of. This is not what you need to be scared of. This is what you need to be scared of. That's all you get. All of a sudden it's like, wait, hold on, what? and then when all of a sudden it changes, it's like, wait a minute, I don't have to be scared anymore. What's this? What? I can go out somewhere.
Process this?
Exactly. It's going to take time to get people off of this anxiety high. Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest here, whether you like Trump or not, okay? When we were under the Trump presidency, all you heard every day was the bad numbers, the bad news, the bad this about Corona every day, okay? When Biden got not elected, but inaugurated in as president, everyone goes back to January.
Yep.
January 6th.
Yep.
But anyways, when that happened, when the inauguration happened back in January, it wasn't an immediate light switch, flip of bad to good, but it was a gradual changeover of like, oh, all these positive updates, positive updates. So people are still trying to come out of that anxiety high of like just being fed all this negative fear, as I've heard it called the fear porn. Because you get addicted to looking at bad news, the things that weird, things that give you anxiety. It's a weird chemical addiction that you get because, just like people get pleasure out of watching porn because it's a chemical change in the brain, the dopamine hit. Some people get a similar hit in their brain from watching this bad news happening. My mom is one of those people who gets pleasure out of watching riots online. She is one of those weird people, Like, I will go to her house to do something, and she's like, shh, I'm watching my riots.
Oh, my God.
And she'll be watching, like, a YouTube person who has, like, 4 or 5 riots on the stream simultaneously, and she's watching it on her phone. So she's watching on her phone 4 or 5 different riot streams simultaneously. And she's like, I got to watch my riots.
I could not do that.
So you got some people who get a little perverse joy out of watching this chaos happen, but then at the same time you have on the flip side people who just are getting anxious, like, oh my goodness, there's these riots happening, oh my goodness, this is happening, oh my goodness, and we've had more than just COVID. Obviously over the past year we've had the various riots, after George Floyd passed away. Yep, the Summer of Love over in Chass Chop. So we have all these things going on, and that takes a toll on people. You can't have just purely negative news put people in isolation, take away all their abilities to go out and socialize and blow off steam at festivals and then expect everyone to be mentally fit and healthy.
Yeah, feeling great.
Yes, I'm feeling great, confined in my house, being able to do nothing. That's so wonderful. And you wonder why people are having mental health issues.
Yeah, it doesn't do any good. And that's why I was really thankful that, for the whole COVID thing, my life didn't really seem to change much. I still had to go to work, interact with people and stuff because we were deemed essential. Mm-hmm. So that was great. as far as my behalf going with that. And yeah, I don't know, because I know, what was it, well, one of the guys, I mean, his kids, I mean, yeah, haven't gone to school in a while. They're back into school now, but I know they have a day off some point in time during the week where they just learn from home.
Yeah, hybrid learning, where
Yeah.
it's some in class and some at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to try to prevent COVID spread in the classroom as much as possible.
So what, I guess the thing I don't, because they don't, I mean, some of this, like, kids sports things are still going on, which is good. I'm glad they are.
Yeah, now they are. They weren't last year.
No, last year, no. But this year, it's back up. Okay, well, this is glad they got something they can do now as far as kids go. Because I am kind of curious as to how big of an impact that would have. Like, if I wasn't able to go out for like a year and just play with my friends like normal, like, that'd be like not good, I'd imagine.
Well, when you're a kid, the perspective of time changes as you grow. When you're a kid, every day seems like it's forever. It's long, especially.
yeah.
Especially during the summer when things could go all day and it just was great, right? But not when you're an adult, like every day is just like boom, fast. It's done in an instant type deal. But so when you're a kid, think about that, when days seemed like to last forever and you couldn't see your friends or do anything for a year plus. That's not helpful. That's not good, especially for those who are very formative years of life, such as middle and high school, and their teenage. They're growing and they're learning how to interact socially, how to to live life. And all of a sudden, for a year, nope, you can't do it. It's going to be really hard on them.
Oh.
And it has been really hard on the teens and the young adult. You're finding a lot of young adults don't want to do anything. In fact, there's a lot of jobs that are hard pressed to find employees because a lot of people don't want to go back into the workforce. They're anxious over things, or they're because right now with all the COVID relief packages and all that, some people, depending on where they were working before, might be making more money not working than they were working. Again, if they're working someplace that offered good salary like $15 an hour or whatever, they probably are not making more on unemployment stuff. But if they're making something good, like $15 an hour, you can bet they're probably still working.
Yeah. I mean, I do. Well, I guess I don't know how much that McDonald's in Florida is paying hourly, but I do remember hearing about them paying $50 for somebody just to come in and have an interview. But as far as the whole like job, being less jobs out there, that is kind of freaky to see, because as we talked earlier, after church was the whole thing with the truck drivers and the gas truck drivers, there being a shortage of that, which then will cause wouldn't be the only thing to potentially cause an increase in price in gas prices. Mm-hmm. But as other prices go up, that's just, I can only see that causing more and more stress to other people, because as prices go up, and if people can't afford it, that's going to just add stress to them, especially if it's a necessity for their livelihood,
right?
Need, which, gas is important.
Well, gas allows you to travel to get stuff like food and other essentials, paper towels, toilet tissue, etc. stuff.
There's other one, which thankfully, this is the thing. This is why. This is why I don't like technology, as far as like with this whole like DoorDash stuff, and we can just have everything brought to us, just via phones. And then at some point, hopefully your groceries or whatever will get delivered.
Right.
I'm not too crazy on that. I would rather people just be able to go out, have to go out and get their own stuff that they need. Because,
but that's providing jobs for want to do those short-term contract type jobs, then who hopefully that will allow them to bring in some extra income and not have to worry about being all crazy.
Yeah. There's good in it too.
And so hopefully that'll help bring about some better mental health for those people. Yeah.
It's just, it's so, I don't know. It's difficult because I feel like there's like so many things that could branch off and just like cause so many different issues with people. And then it's, man, I don't know. Think about these store owners or whatever, business owners that are trying to find people to work now, but they just can't get people to work. At some point, that's not going to be able to go on anymore. And it's like, what do you do then? If you can't even just find good, decent work. It's like a company can only stay up so long until they have to call it quits if they can't get good work.
Yeah.
Which makes, I don't know, makes me wonder. I don't know.
What does it make you wonder?
makes me wonder a lot of things. Well, I guess one, even for like our job, we could definitely use a hand. We can't seem to really get people to come in. Well, I guess through at least certain agencies or whatever, like might send somebody in to help. They don't show up sometimes. At least the last few times, I guess they haven't. I don't know. But it's like we aren't really slowing down on work. Like, we'll have moments where we're kind of slow, but then you just get bombarded with like we're fighting to keep up and stuff like that from going behind. It's like if it keeps getting bigger and bigger, it's like we're only going to be able to keep up with so much. So, and then in that aspect, you know, if you can't keep up with stuff, I mean, you lose customers and that's not good either. And then it's just a mess. I don't know. The whole jobs thing makes me nervous, I guess, personally, with keeping sane under control. For those that don't have mental health issues, I mean, there's always going to be, obviously there's people around that do have mental health issues. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about. I guess what are ways that, you know, for someone that doesn't fully understand what it is to have mental health issues, like how do you go about helping someone with that? Or it's like, what are do's and don'ts for someone that...
So first off, I'll say this.
Because I don't know. Do I? I don't know. I don't know what I am anymore.
Okay. So I'll start off with this. Mental health is a broad spectrum of things. Mm-hmm. So that can be anything from anxiety to depression to schizophrenia to, you know, autism to... There's a wide spectrum of what mental health encompasses.
Yeah.
And so I can only talk to some of the facets that I know.
Right.
I cannot talk on the bipolar, the autism, the schizophrenia. I can't talk because there are people with those diseases who have to deal with those things. And I can't tell you anything about them and how they feel or how you interact with them or anything like that. I can tell you about anxiety. I can tell you about depression and how you interact with stuff like that. So the first thing, if you're not someone who is impacted by anything, where people will call you, forget what it's some weird term. It's like neurotypical. If you're neurotypical, in other words, you don't have a brain at all. Congratulations. I am glad for you. No, and that's in all seriousness. Yeah. That is in all seriousness. Yeah. Okay? Because you not having to deal with that makes your life so much. Now, I'm not saying you have neurotypical privilege or anything like that. I'm just saying I am glad that you don't have to deal with that.
That'll be next.
Oh, no. There's already people who talk about neurotypical privilege. So that's why I said I'm not saying you have neurotypical privilege. That's why I am bringing it up and saying that straight up. Okay? But I am glad that you don't have to deal with it. Now, what is it like to live with those things? That's a loaded question. Because here's the thing. It's not the same for everyone all the time. But let me give you a brief example of what. So with the anxiety for me is not always a constant thing. That's less of a thing that I have than the depression. But like after I got out of the psychiatric hospital, one of the first nights I went with the Petersons to ice hockey game where one of the kids was playing in the pep band. So I went with Andy in that, and we were just in the stands and that. And, you know, anxiety can be triggered by a multiple situation. In this case, it was all the people around me. Like literally, I felt like if you've ever been nervous about something, I felt nervous just because there's that many people, and I was just anxious. Like I was on edge the entire night I was there. I was like just in there like, oh my goodness, why are there so many people? I'm going to have a problem. It was not good. Okay. And the medicine they had put me on, I'd only been on for less than a week, so I wasn't fully into it yet at all. You know, so it was still getting in my system. Right. And so, you know, part of it was partly in my system, and my system was still adjusting to the medicine. So it didn't know what to do fully. And so I was like, like I looked like a nervous, like twitched out, you know, drugged out person there, just kind of like looking all around nervously. You know, and various things can bring on that anxiety. You know, for me, it's groups of people. For other people, it could be having to speak on stage. For other people, it could be being put on the spot. For other people, it may be a particular type of situation that they're, you know, and it's just that real extreme nervousness where you lose that focus. You lose that ability to concentrate. You lose that ability to think clearly. And all of a sudden, you're just in fight or flight mode the entire time, and you don't know what to do. So how do you, as someone who doesn't deal with that, help someone who does deal with that?
I guess maybe it's not necessarily help, but It's just, I guess then what do you do? Not cause more harm to an issue.
Right. Well, that's
Yeah,
what,
which I guess in a sense would be helping.
yeah,
but
that's why I said it that way.
Yeah.
How do you help? Well, first off, if you notice your friend or someone you know that is having, a nervous having anxiety, and the anxiety could also be like shortness of breath. Their chest could feel like it's tightening up. Could feel like a heart attack almost. They could feel lightheaded. They could feel like they're trapped. They could feel just anxiety can take a lot of forms. Like if you see them taking short, rapid breaths, they might be having an anxiety. What do you do? Well, if you're a friend of theirs, that's someone. Aaron notices me having an anxiety attack. Couple things you can quit. One, help ground them. Now, when I say help ground them, and I'm saying this as not as a medical professional. I'm saying this as someone who has learned these things from going to inpatient therapy and who has found these things help. Okay. So what you do when you help ground them is you help bring them back to reality, essentially. Because when you're anxious, you're just seeing groups of people and that's all you're seeing. You're just that's all you're seeing. It's like you have blinders on. And you don't have to be like all like out loud, like ground yourself. You don't do it. Like if you know I'm having that issue, right?
Yeah.
Like you can ask simple questions like, hey, what's going on?
Right.
How are you doing? And remind someone, take a couple deep breaths. Close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, count to 10 with your eyes closed. Essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to focus on something in the here and now other than the thing that's causing the anxiety. So if the anxiety is a big group of people, close your eyes, take in a couple deep breaths, just slowly count to 10 while you're taking those deep breaths. And don't just take in the breaths to take in the breaths. Concentrate on how you feel your lungs expand. Feel them feel them exhale, and contracting. Because as you're doing that, you're focusing on something other than what's causing that anxiety to occur. So you can try grounding. If it's a situational thing like a big group of people and maybe there's like a smaller room where you can take them for a little bit, maybe you suggest they go off to that other area for a minute just to calm themselves down.
Yeah.
Another method, like if you need something to do right away, and I've done this before, myself, I've done this. Like if I'm in another area where I'm getting really anxious, what I'll do is I'll close my fist and I'll concentrate on closing the fist, feeling all the muscles as I close it. Because as you're concentrating on that and you're feeling each muscle as it contracts and closes the hand, I'm not so much concentrating on what's around me.
Yeah, you're just shifting focus on something.
Yeah, you're shifting focus on something that's not causing that anxiety for you. So those are some ground, take them away, help them divert their...
Don't make a scene out of it.
Yeah, don't make a scene out of it. Definitely don't make a scene out of it. Making a scene out of it will make it 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 times worse. And it'll make them self-conscious about it. And that's the third thing. Don't make conscious.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Don't be like, I can't just have an anxiety attack again.
Get over it.
Come on, get over it. You're just here in a group of people. Really? Can you not make a scene? Because they might make a scene too at sometimes if they're really angry.
Right.
And don't chide them. Don't make it a big deal of it. Help them ground themselves, pull themselves out of the situation if they really have to, and there's some other techniques out there that can be used, but those are the ones that I have found for me personally have been probably the most helpful for the anxiety stuff. Now, again, like I said, anxiety for me is not one of those things that is the most common. My most common thing has been depression, what dealt with for most of my life. Now, that one is, like I tell people, it's like living in a world full of color and all you see is black and white. It's or gray tones. It's very dull, very blah. When you look at a photograph that's gray tone, it's like, oh, look, there's a flower. That's cool, neat. But then you see the same photo in color and you're like, oh, that's a bird of paradise flower. Oh my goodness, look at all the colors, the sunburst, the radiance, the brightness, and it's a completely different experience.
Right.
And then when you're back to depressed, you're like, oh, look, it's a field of grass. Yay.
Nothing special about this
Yeah.
thing.
And again, this is how I processed it, when I was, everything just was blah. Think of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Woe is me. That's nice. Nobody cares.
It's gonna die anyways.
That sort of stuff. And those were thought patterns that were going through my head all the time. Nobody cares. I couldn't show up and no one would give a rip. Blah da 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 da. And that is a very, real mindset for someone living with depression. You know, and it does get to the point, you know, for some people where they go, well, no one cares, no one's going to miss me, I might as well swallow 5 million pills and make them not miss me even more.
Poof.
Okay,
Yep.
it does get that way. It got there for me, and that's why I ended up in the psychiatric hospital for a week.
Yeah.
You know, and I got myself stabilized, and that was very helpful because I needed that.
Oh yeah.
And that experience is going to be slightly different for everyone. And I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish that experience on Hitler if he was still alive. That's how much I am not a fan of this experience. And how do you help someone with that? Wow, that one's a loaded question. And I say that because people's personalities are going to differ on how you help.
Yeah.
But I'll give you some guidelines. Again, as a non-medical professional, okay, one, don't try to solve their problem. Again, as we talked about with the accountability thing, you can't solve their problem. You as Mr. Johnson cannot make me feel better when I'm depressed.
Nope.
However, you can sit there and commiserate with, you know, think about, again, going back to Winnie the Pooh books, you know, with Eeyore and all that, right? Pooh and Tigger and all that didn't try to necessarily like fix all of Eeyore's problems. They tried a couple times, but you know what they did for the most part? They included him in things.
Yeah.
They just let him be there and let him be him. Now, and that works sometimes when you're just in the blah. Right. But if it's someone who is maybe a little more threats of self-harm, which even if someone makes a threat of self-harm, you have to take that seriously.
So yeah, don't take it lightly.
You have to take it seriously. But if it's more of a threat of self-harm, then that's when you kick in from the where you just have them around, you know, make sure they're included, just commiserate with them, you know, sit with them and sort of thing, to the whole, hey, should we get you treatment sort of thing? Do you need help in any other way? And some of that may be, you know, especially for people of the Christian faith, you know, and again, I'm not saying this is the thing. Some people are going to go, oh, you need to pray it away, da-da-da. Some of that might be needed, okay?
So it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt, no. Okay? Now, let's not beat around the bush here. We are spiritual beings living in physical bodies. So if we are not right with God, that is going to impact us physically. And if we're not physically right, that's going to impact our soul as well. You know, it's a bidirectional conversation between the soul and body. So is it possible that, you know, some things are going on in your spiritual life that maybe you need to clean up and get taken care of, and that will help you out some? Yes, it's possible. Would I say that is the solution every time? No, I would not say jump right to that. That is a case-by-case solution per person. Some people, it's going to be a spiritual thing. Some people, it's going to be a chemical imbalance. Some people, they're going to need vitamin D and sunlight. And once you kind of rooted through that, and, you know, you're in order to root that through that, you're going to have to talk with a professional. So whether that be a counselor, a pastor to help maybe root out if there's any spiritual, you know, or a good friend, you know, who could provide good, do that. But once you've kind of rooted, then you know what's are. If it's more on the spiritual side, start working on a plan to address some of those issues. If it's on the vitamin D deficiency side, take that vitamin D pill once a week, you know, for when you need it. If it's a chemical imbalance in the brain, get the appropriate help. Now, however, if they are saying they're suicidal, then that kind of escalates things up even a little bit more, which then means you either need to A, get them in the ER, or B, get them into a psychiatric hospital voluntarily. And then once you're in there, the treatment can be done as prescribed by a doctor in there, and then you can do things such as outpatient treatment, inpatient treatment, or ongoing counseling and that. So you can do that sort of stuff. But what it comes down to, what you do as a person for someone who's depressed, make sure they're safe. If they have said that they have had thoughts of self-harm, take away their knives, take away their guns, take away their alcohol, take away their, you know, take away anything that they could use to hurt themselves. If, you know, check up on them every day, every couple hours. If it's real bad,
yeah, right,
check up on them every couple hours until you're able to help get them some treatment. And they have to be willing to go to treatment. You can't force them unless they attempt to take their life. So like if they actually try slitting the wrist, or they actually take a bunch of pills or whatever and they injure themselves, then you can take them to the ER. And from there, after they're treated at the ER forces them into a psychiatric hospital. And that's not something that you do light, but you have to do that sometimes to save their life. And they're going to be upset with you about it, but that's do. Other things you can do, like I said, if they're not at that suicidal level, just be there for talk with. Don't be like, how's your depression? Oh my goodness, you look more depressed today than yesterday. You don't do that.
Don't focus on that.
You ask them how they're doing.
Yeah.
Invite them to things that you would normally do together. Do you normally go shooting? Take them shooting. Do you normally go to a coffee shop? Take them to a coffee shop. Do you normally go to movies? Well, hopefully you're not doing that during the pandemic, but outside of pandemic hours, normally take them to a movie. Do what you normally would. Involve them in those normal activities so that they still feel included, because the natural inclination of depressed is to stay away from and to self-isolate as much as possible. And then once you self-isolate, it just becomes a downward spiral
from there. Yeah. Well, for the one thing, for this Colorado trip, I know I have a friend that has some mental health stuff going on, so I wanted to make sure that they're okay with me and my other friend about bringing any guns along, kind of just in case, like, depending on, like, are you in a good place, or are you not in a good place? Like, obviously they could be now, but as time goes on, maybe not later. So I guess my thing with that was I was just wanting to make sure that they're, I guess, just making sure that if that wouldn't be an issue having.
You also have to make sure that you're on good enough terms with them where they're going to tell you the truth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because if you're not on good enough terms with them, where they might just go, yeah,
it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then,
and even then, this is my personal recommendation. Take the safe.
Oh, yeah.
And lock.
Yeah. And that was the whole point of getting one, was because I bought a safe for the trip
and
to put them away.
The other person who might be bringing a gun
puts it in the safe.
It's either the safe or no gun.
Yeah.
And that's the only way it happens, because they may be saying fine. And I'm saying this as someone from personal experience. It is real easy in the course of, especially if they're going on a trip with people, if it's depression, or I don't know what it is, and you don't have to say it what it is, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. But if it's depression or anxiety in that, constant social interaction can quickly drain. And when you quickly drain, you can flip. Not so much snap. It's more like a flip.
I'm sorry.
You can flip from being real good to I'm done in the course of a couple days.
Yeah.
So that's my caution to you at a personal level, as someone who knows that can happen. Now, if they're more of an extrovert, the drain might not be as much.
Right.
But
and that was, it's definitely, I had bought a safe for the trip, knowing just, not one, I mean, it's one locked up if something like that were to happen, but then also it's just like, if when we're out and about and we don't need a gun with us or have to have one, it's locked up, so hopefully people don't steal it if people decide to try and break in the place we're but there's definitely a safe where everything will be able to be stored while it's unsupervised or whatever. What is this? Man, gotta be careful things. Always the precaution, something like that.
Gotta be a responsible gun owner, especially if you're going to be traveling with people who are depressed or anything like that. Now, obviously, if they're seeking treatment for it and and all that, hopefully they're in a good spot. But you never know. Traveling with people could be stressful and could trigger things.
Oh, absolutely.
But hopefully nothing bad.
No, and nothing. I like knowing the people I'm going with. I personally have no concerns, but it's just taking that precaution safe. Make sure that everyone is good place.
So did I answer your question adequately there?
Oh, I would say a little bit. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Well, obviously for yourself, because unless you have someone with you, talking about like schizophrenic, any people different mental health issues, can't really always speak for them. It's like
and for those, I'd have to let them speak, because their experience is different than mine in that regard, to the the mental health aspect of what it's like living with it, but also B, what kind of treatments help with it.
So do your research, people. But just trying to think of, even for yourself, I don't know, I guess self-diagnosing, I don't know, if what are things to look out for, I suppose, because for me, I never thought much of me having any kind of issues. I don't know. I just kind of figured it was just this is the thing where it's I feel it's a common thing, nothing to worry about, whatever. Where it's, I'm sure everybody has this at some point to some degree, which sometimes you come to learn that is true, but it's still not something to take lightly.
Are you referring to your winter blues?
Yeah,
or what are you
pretty
referring
much.
To?
I mean,
that's I was like, give context here.
Yeah, I was getting there. Don't worry. Because as far as one, I'm trying to think of one that really kind of started, I suppose, take off. Because I would have it during spring and summer sometimes, and or fall, winter, whatever. I would always say fall, winter was worse than spring and summer. But it's like always like getting into summer. At times I would just like get down and be, ugh. And then, but more so during fall winter times. Trying to think of what. So I felt like most of the stuff was just caused by one, health. Never been healthy. Well, I say 8th grade would probably been my best year. But gosh, that was 11 years ago. Oh, that's scary. But even I guess what was it? I guess 5th grade I guess would have been the worst point of it. Well, at the start, but that was from like bullying and stuff like
Right.
that, whatever. So I guess like even from there on out, I guess always kind of more self-conscious about myself, and always, well, as in like, just being the weird one out, being the strange kid. What's that look for? You're giving me this like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like what? Like what are you talking about? I don't know. Wait, what are you doing?
You being self-conscious about being weird.
Yeah, I did.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Now it's like I don't care. Now I just embrace it. For the
Anyways,
most
come
part.
on.
But like, yeah, because I mean, gosh, from 5th grade being bullied,
Okay.
and then to that one point of, I guess, suicide, whatever, and then, gosh, I always play things so much lightly for myself. And this is where I guess this is what I was talking about, like more in the beginning. Like, I feel like I can never actually do it. I just think about it, but it's like I've never come. I guess. How do I say it? It's like you could almost be there, but it would never get past that one point. But then it's like, do you really just let it sit and get to that point every time, or no? Because one of these points is just gonna boop or not,
Okay, so let me summarize here.
Summarize this for the other people in the world.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong here on
Yeah.
what I'm hearing here and what
Maybe.
you're saying. So 5th grade, due to bullying, that was the first time that you were like, and I think the only time, right, where it was like, I'm going to take my life, sort of.
Pretty much.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
and then since then, you've had episodes mostly in the fall and winter of feeling the blues, the down during that time. Yeah, the seasonal affective disorder. But the question that you had at the last moment was like, sometimes you feel like you get up to that line of
It's like, you
of like you
call
want
it quits.
you want to take yourself out, but you're kind of afraid almost to go
But it would
over that
never
line,
happen.
and that's normal. When I say
Right.
that's normal, I say you hear that a lot, and that's actually
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that that's a normal thing where people get up to that line, and this is why people go, oh, they're just having a cry for it.
Right.
Because, they're threatening for it. Now, obviously, they're threatening it. They're looking for that attention for a reason. Something's going on. It's a cry for help.
Yeah.
And they're looking, especially if they're like being a drama queen public about
Oh
it.
gosh.
I'm not saying that to be derogatory, but like, they're like, I have a knife. I will stab myself. That sort of thing. Okay. If it's something like that, then yeah, it's like a cry for attention sort of deal, more of that drama
Yeah.
thing. Like, but a lot of people, they go right up to that line and they get pushed up to it. Like I got pushed up to that a couple times, and I'm glad at the end I decided not to jump over that line. And I'm
Right.
glad you didn't jump over that line either.
Yeah.
That one time.
Oh yeah.
Now, can you? And let me ask you this, and you may not know the answer. Since 5th grade, about how many times have you been up to that line? And not like in a jokingly, I'm out.
No.
Like
Yeah.
like a serious, I'm out. Ballpark it.
I want to say, which is, I'd say it's on the lower. It's probably at most 5.
Okay.
So it's not bad.
No, but the fact is, you got to that point. Something drove you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Now, I know your question started off as like, what are the symptoms? What's kind of like the things to look out for to self-diagnose? Things to look out for. And some of these are very
Mhm.
You don't enjoy the things you used to enjoy.
Oh.
You enjoyed music.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden are like, eh. And that could be, if you're a player of music, if all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to, or if you love listening to music, all of a sudden I got nothing. Now, obviously, you sometimes go out of favor with a certain genre or band.
Right.
It's not that. It's like, does no music at all bring you joy? Okay.
Yeah.
Inability to think clearly, sleeping all the time, waking up more tired than you went to bed,
Bad.
a racing mind that prevents you from getting to sleep, insomnia, irritability, lack of not wanting to eat or drink, lack of appetite,
Yeah.
lack of self-care maintenance. People who get depressed may go for days or weeks at a time without taking a shower or
Whoa.
brushing their teeth,
didn't know
or
that.
because there's
not
nothing.
motivated.
There's nothing. They don't think there's anything for.
Yeah.
There's no motivation. Why should I go take a shower? Why should I go brush my
Huh. I didn't think of it on such scale like
self-isolation? People go, hey, you want to come out and do this? No. Or people text message you and you just never respond. Feeling literally depressed. That is obviously a symptom of it.
Oh yeah.
Feeling like the world has just gone blah, where you get no joy out of anything. You eat your favorite food and you go, eh. You drink your favorite beer, eh.
That numb feeling.
You don't care for anything. Those are some comments. Obviously there's
Right.
but you have those symptoms. And I'm not saying you get that symptom, oh, I'm immediately depressed. It's common to get that for a week or so at a time. We all go through rough spots. We all go through bad times, especially like, okay, let's say a family member died, a pet died, you just lost your job. It's okay to be a little down for a few days. It is normal and part of the grieving process. Right. Where it turns bad is when that's for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden you're 2, 3, 4 weeks in,
That's where
then it's like, okay, what's going on? Do we need to seek some help? And it could be something as simple as seasonal allergy or effectiveness allergy. I keep on saying allergy. Seasonal effectiveness disorder. A lot of people get the blues, as they say, during the winter. It's due to lack of sun and vitamin D. Most people, not all, again, I'm not a medical doctor, but most people, if they take a vitamin D pill, they will feel better. They may not be 100% all right, but they'll feel better.
Yeah.
And that's not true for everyone. It's some people, for me, it was brought on by certain anniversaries. Anniversary of my dad's birthday to the anniversary of his death. Those anniversaries were tough times for me, and that's what triggered it in my brain. Some it's a loss of a job. Here's a funny part. I say funny in cap quotes. There's a thing called postpartum depression, where women who just give birth, probably one of the happiest times of their life, are depressed because of various things that are happening, and it's a very common thing. Another thing that might be happening with you if you're depressed, you might be very emotional, even if you're not so you might be the blah, or you might be hyper emotional, where you drop something, you breaks a nail or something, and all of a sudden you're crying and you're gone. And all those are symptoms. Now, if you feel you have any of those things, obviously you should talk to a doctor, qualified doctor, and just kind of see what they say and get some of those treatments. And especially if it's the winter and you notice it's happening, talk to your doctor. Maybe you just need to go on vitamin, which would be the best solution possible.
Right.
But if it's continuing on beyond winter, if it gets spring into summer, maybe at that worth checking again with, hey, so hit up the vitamin. Still not. We're in the middle of summer. I'm tan as all get go.
I've seen the sun,
and it's still not the best. Maybe we need to talk about further stuff. And it's not something to be ashamed of. And for the longest time, I was the utmost ashamed. It was something that I considered almost as like a taboo culture wise in the church. And I don't know why I thought that. It just seemed like, probably because it's not really taught. It's not really talked about. It's one of those things that's kind of hushed away in the corner.
Which I feel like because of COVID is now more so talked about. But then
I hope so.
Because I feel like, it's been a big noticing thing for, well, at least the kids, where I feel like it's been talked about the most, that having a big mental impact on them, not seeing their friends, not getting out and doing the activities that they normally would go out and do and stuff like that. So I feel like, I would hope that it's not a thing where it's just like, oh, it gets talked about in this moment, but now that things open up again, it's just, oh, okay, well, we'll be all right now. No, we're fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope that's not something that happens. Because I do feel like it was brought more to attention because of all the isolation stuff and lockdowns and all that exciting stuff that happened in 2020. And still sort of ish going on. Yeah. Which I'm glad to kind of see that some concerts are like getting back to going. But again, and as far as like events go, like fest, I hope those don't get canceled. But I can see that because
COVID.
But I'm hoping as things kind of get back, at least like with the whole, because I remember when we talked about like how high the suicide rates went up and stuff like that, and just the amount of depression people are feeling because of it. I hope those numbers start to go down.
Well, that's my hope too, and I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. And I want to see those go down. And yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, want to see those numbers go down, but I can't change the world myself, but could change my little corner of it.
And you'd be surprised how much.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know. Any other questions on your list? Any other comments or questions from you, Mr. Johnson?
Well, not really besides the one that was just said. Just, because you're saying that you can do your part in helping your little corner and stuff. And I feel like that is one thing, like, I don't know, come to realize just how small the world is in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, if you do your part in your area, hopefully that'll, affect them, and then they'll start to do their part in their area. And I mean, how quickly that expands is you'd be surprised how much a little bit can go. So, I mean, yeah, as far as, just caring for making sure they're looked after.
Well,
and know that they're wanted
yep.
too.
Yeah, and I agree. The little bit of change we can do in our own little corner can help and spread out. And it's because of that, I guess I should go ahead and now, shouldn't I?
Sure.
Aaron's like, I have no idea what's going on.
Don't. I'm scared.
Maybe someday I'll share the backstory of this and how this happened and came up.
My anxiety.
Your anxiety is going up, and that's okay. But that's all right. So stay tuned to after the outro music for the announcement. Hey everyone, this is Paul. Sorry that was put after the outro music. The reason for that is I was still working on a couple things and I didn't want to create a weird empty spot in front of the outro music while recording. So that's why it is what it is. Anyways, May is Mental Health Month. It is something that is near and dear to my heart, especially with my various experiences in that. And it's because of that this podcast is going to continue doing what it is doing. There's no changing in that on what it does, because it does allow for a very broad array of topics to be utilized there. That being said, and it's not going to start immediately. There is going to be a new podcast. It's going to be an every other week. It's not going to be a weekly thing. It gives a little more time and flexibility for editing, recording, etc. Especially adding a new series of editing into the mix and everything. But this one will be focused solely on mental health, and specifically mental health as it relates to the church, big C and small c church, specifically around that, and how at times the church has failed and what we can do better as the church in all to help with that, to ensure that those people who need that help aren't being just told to go home, read their Bible more, pray more, and then they end up blowing their brains out. And then people go, why did they do that? Weren't they praying enough? Weren't they being fed spiritually enough? Weren't they blah, 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 blah enough? And so that's what that's going to try to tackle and address. And that one, there's still a couple things being worked on, but I expect for that one to start coming up probably middle of June, if not sooner. So tentatively, and I'm kind of leaning towards this still, but tentatively at this point in time, the name of this, I don't know if I want to call it series or if this is going to be a permanent podcast thing, but at least series, but probably permanent podcast thing, is going to be entitled, Hey Church, we need to talk about mental health. So join me in a couple weeks, and I'll go ahead and make an announcement here on when that happens. And actually what I'll probably do is the first episode of that will actually come on as a Use Your Words podcast episode as well, just kind of bridge that gap in there. So, hey church, we need to talk about mental health.